get familiar. So if you don't know by now, then you should probably get familiar.
Welcome to episode 1 of Re-Rack. I am Nathan Brantley, and this is the Bowling Fix's own Cory. The purpose of this series is for us to discuss current events in today's bowling world and also issues that people may have with today's bowling. On today's episode, we're going to start with the acquisition of Ebonite International by Brunswick. So how do you feel? First of all, that's a big deal. That's a massive deal.
Completely caught me off guard.
Yeah, you and me both. So do you feel as if free agency-wise, there's going to be some big shakeups? Is everything going to stay moderately the same? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, it did look like Ebonite just signed a bunch of people to like 2-year deals. I mean, like Bill O'Neill, Shannon O'Keefe, and like Tommy Jones just signed like 2-year deals.
Just to stay with the team, stay with the partners that they came to. Yeah.
I mean, besides that, I mean, we saw Stephanie Johnson already leave.
That is a big deal because the CBS's own sideline reporter is already jumping ship to a different brand. So that's a big deal. And I feel as if there's a possibility for other brands such as Storm or even Moda, for example, to come up and snatch some bigger names, not the biggest names, but some bigger names, and put them on, I guess, smaller type of contracts because they would win. They ultimately have the pull to snag certain people for cheaper prices because they have nowhere else to go.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I feel like that is something that we could expect. We have until January 1st, or maybe the end of January, but I feel like there may be some shakeups coming. Like, potentially, if Don Barrett decides to jump ship and go back to Storm, where his last show with the products, he did, in fact, put up a 300 and then jump ship to Ebonite.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what would be going through every staffer's head. Do you wait it out, or do you immediately jump ship before it gets bad?
And I'm intrigued because I've talked to some of my staffer friends, and they're equally as confused. It caught them all off guard also. But a lot of them have kind of embraced the change and went ahead and punched Brunswick rocks. Brunswick people have punched Ebonite rocks, and the results aren't that bad. Yeah. I have one of my friends, Andy Klein, put up 820 the other day with, I think it was Radical Conspiracy, fresh off the press. So it could be okay for certain people, but then for some people, they might be afraid of change, and that's what's going to make them jump ship to something they may have thrown before in life, like maybe in their college days, which then brings up the point, what are college teams going to do?
Oh, I mean, I'm jumping ship on a college team. I'm going straight to whatever I can get my hands on. I mean, coming from a college program, you don't have much to work with anyway. If you're not on the staff,
you got to take what you're given. You got to take what you're given.
And maybe down the line, if the Brunswick stuff and Ebonite stuff from Brunswick is actually good, maybe you get back on then. But if you're talking right now, you get all the free stuff you can get.
Most definitely, and that's a lot of balls to choose from.
Oh yeah,
7 different brands. Having the ability to order literal cases on cases in one ball order. Not even waiting for the second one. Just being able to order for 7 different brands. At a ball release, you could have 10 balls coming out and not knowing anything of what to do. And understanding the ball motion of everything in that bag for coaches and players alike, that's a haul.
There are a lot of balls to keep track of.
Oh my goodness. Especially at the end of the day or even in the transition, you have XYZ amount of benchmark balls that you have to deal with.
I mean, it's already hard for most Ebonite schools to keep track of with 4 brands, and now you add 3 on top.
3 more with their own. Given Brunswick doesn't launch balls nearly as much as everybody else does, but that's still a lot of balls, no matter how you spin it.
But if you're Brunswick, do you keep all 7 brands?
You know, in a perfect world, I would say yes, but the world's not perfect. So I feel as if, I don't know where or when, how soon, I feel as if at least 2 brands have to go because Ebonite has made it thus far with 4 brands working, but having 5 seems feasible. 7 is just too many. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they would take one of the Brunswick umbrella and one of the Ebonite umbrella and then fold them that way. but it is kind of choosy on the Ebonite side of things because you have all of the companies coming out with their own staple. The Paradoxes, the Game Breakers, the Columbia just being Columbian in general, and then Nothing Hits Like a Hammer with the Widow series. You have each of those 4 brands with their own powerhouse balls that can make it so that each of those lays a decent claim to not being demolished. As far as Brunswick is concerned, DVA could go on somewhere. Radical has been making really good balls under the radar for quite some time now. And then Brunswick is on its resurgence. So DV8, it's got to go. Yeah. But as far as the Ebonite one, I guess the only one that could suffer the chop would be Track. Because only having one staple doesn't really get you anywhere. Like, Hammer has had Black Widow since the dawn of time, it feels like. Mm-hmm. But it also has really good balls in the middle, at the bottom. Their low-end balls are starting to be a lot of bang for the buck. Columbia, once again, the name speaks for itself. Ebonite, Ebonite International for a reason.
Game Breakers.
Yes,
Game Breakers.
Exactly. On both sides of the spectrum, benchmark low and whatever, white dots. They all take care of themselves except for Track. So I think Track would be the one to get the axe on that side of the coin.
On a little tangent, what do you think they do with plastic balls? Because, I mean, now you have 3 different major brands of plastic balls underneath one umbrella.
That is very true, and then it is dependent on... Because certain plastic balls, Brunswick plastic balls, hook a lot.
Yeah.
And then Ebonite plastic balls and Columbia plastic balls go pretty straight. So do you stick with the normal polyester? Do you go purely visible type of material for everything? What do you do there?
What about the Track ones with the ASIM cores in it?
Very true. And then you bring about, we just had the Baller come out, and they have a spare ball with everything. White dots are being sold like hotcakes with Ballers. So that's a lot of spare ball production. Once again, which adds to the fact that there are way too many balls going around under that umbrella. And I guess we'll have to see what happens there, because I'm glad I'm not on staff right now, because that's a lot.
Team for agency.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Hashtag unsigned hype. That is the move, because that's a lot to deal with at every moment. But we'll see. We'll sure see.
Oh man! So who may switch? Who do you think would just go? I don't want to wait this out.
I feel as if the person who would switch would be more of an under the radar type of person. Like, they've had their flare ups, people know them, but people on tour know them. Your normal house hack Joes and your everyday spectators aren't going to necessarily know who they are if they don't live in their city. But people like the Mitch Hoopes, the Packy, Hanrahans, those people would be the people who would have the best opportunity to switch, because they could bounce around, find success with another brand, and then blossom that way. Or they could stick with what they're already on contract with and then ride that wave to see if and only if this umbrella turns into something incredible. Because the opportunity for success is kind of booming with this deal, because once again, you having 7 different balls, that's a lot of different ball motions to choose from. So if you're allowed 10 balls for a tournament, you can make an entirely complete bag with 7 different brands to choose from, because you have different ball motions from
7 different brands. And 3 randos.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be absolutely ridiculous. You could, and then Brunswick people being able to throw purple hammers, Packy Hanrahan.
Oh, yeah.
That's dangerous.
That's scary.
The career maker itself, if you could get your hands on some, because they're not going to come out the same, but if you could find a case of those somewhere, somehow, that's a dangerous time, because those balls are OP, to say the least.
But if you're Brunswick, do you try to repeat the purple hammer?
I would honestly leave that alone. Don't do it. I am a fan of certain remakes. Certain brands remaking their balls, the vintage line and stuff. Brunswick has remade a lot of balls from the vintage line, and they do a lot more than they did before. Yeah. But
Vapor zones.
Yeah, all of the, goodness gracious, the entire zone series. Okay. The Phantom, for example, is a lot more than it used to be. Yeah, but that's something that it's already sensitive enough for Ebonite fans. The normal people jumping ship from Ebonite because Brunswick bought them, because they don't understand that there is a resurgence coming. But if you start trying to recreate iconic balls like that, that's because it's either going to be out the park or it's going to be a really bad time. And that tech, the ball's been out 5 years, and no one's been able to recreate that type of cover stock.
Every brand's tried it.
They have all tried and they have all failed because you can't rival it. You can't do it. The fever pitch wasn't quite what the Purple Hammer is. And then you have Global coming with the different percentages of the different percentages of cover stock with resin and urethane. Still didn't do it.
So the only ones close is maybe Motive with the Tank Rampage and Tank Blitz.
But then those even have a completely different motion. They hit the lane and they do something similar, but the early to the mid down lane they do something similar, but what you're looking for in the early rolling in the mid lane, they're not quite the same. So I would leave that alone, and as big of a seller as that is, I would focus on Game Breakers and and Black Widows, because those you can play with some cores. Those labels of balls stand the test of time at this point. So there's been some dud Black Widows. There's been some dud Paradoxes. So if you come out with one, your first couple could be subpar or just decent. But then you have the opportunity to see what that is, test them, see the reaction of people, and then keep it rolling from there. And then come out with one that you might, on your third try, you can hit one out the park and continue the line same way that way. Same way with, I guess beforehand, if you're talking about the Mastermind series. First handful of Masterminds was incredible. But then as you went down the line, kind of beat the dead horse and they didn't come out so hot. Maybe they could reverse that since they're on a resurgence, and maybe their cover stock technology brought in with whatever they learned from this Ebonite acquisition. Maybe they could get in a good place with every other ball that is not a purple, red, black, burgundy hammer. Leave those alone. Find them. Let them die peacefully and become the gems that they deserve to be.
Oh, for sure.
That's what you should do.
Now, for the other companies, do you still try to make the Purple Hammer? Do you try to capitalize on this?
I would honestly, no, I would not. But there is the possibility of you doing it and finding success. Because yes, the fever pitch did not accomplish the things that a Purple Hammer did, but now with the Purple Hammer being in such rarity, you having to pay an arm and leg to get it, or yours potentially dying. Now you have an open market to be that next big urethane that could take over the scene. Because with this pitch purple that's on the way out, that seems to be that ball that could have rivaled it had it been in its heyday, still in production, because it has the ability for you to stand left with it and wang and bang on it, or you to play up the boards and it give you that same shape. Not sure, of course, because I haven't seen a ton of them go down the lane because they're not released. But from what I have seen in specs-wise, it doesn't seem like it'll be too much ball to play straight because of the cover stock. But that's also where some people have been failing, because certain, like when you have a bigger urethane cover stock, it'll roll early like urethane and just keep going. Yeah. So there is a possibility that it does tame down its ability to grow teeth and keep hooking, but there's also the possibility that it does what everything else has been doing and overhooks. But when the measuring stick is gone, you then have to find another measuring stick. So if you do make a good reactive urethane ball, you would then take over that place to be the measuring stick. So yeah, given right now could be a good time to do it, I personally would just kind of step away from that and trend back towards more pitch black-esque urethanes. More traditional urethanes, because the game is coming to a place in which those are definitely appreciated again. Like, purple hammers are an incredible ball, but black hammers don't get the respect they deserve when they could bail you out of a lot of situations. Being a former college bowler, that pitch black bailed me out of a lot of very sketchy things on the fresh and in the transition. Slap a pad on a pitch black, you have the ability to control the fronts as long as you have some oil, and then down lane, you keep everything in front of you, you're out of trouble. You leave something close together or you shred a rack. So I would trend more towards that and make sure that you have a urethane in your brand's arsenal that could take care of those things. because some brands have their ASIM urethanes, which are starting to pick up and go. And that seems to be the new thing because even in production, there actually is a Black Widow purple urethane that is an overseas release. So everybody seems to be on that train, which I'm kind of thankful that those didn't get the lifetime that they could have, because that would have been really scary. But yeah, I would definitely trend back more towards actual traditional urethane, because the game is in a place in which you could take resin. Resin is hooking a lot. It's everything has teeth and everything is hooking so much. So you do need that ball that's not going to hook as much, that you could just keep in front of you, play in a safe place, and
actually keep it in front of you.
You keep them close, keep them clean, fill the box. 190 is not a bad score all the time when they're hard, at least.
I mean, urethane still wins championships. I mean, Belmo just won his 10th major with the pitch black.
Yes, and if you flash back to the Masters, when the Tangs were on there with Belmo was trying to slaughter the entire show with the pitch black. Pitch black still are on the market for a reason, because they're still good balls. They're still in rotation. They're still good balls. And as far as traditional urethane, not really much else on the market right now is rivaling that, outside of maybe the Black Hammer.
Yeah.
But once again, since you have the purple, no one really pays attention to the Black Hammer. So I feel like that is the niche that every brand needs to put back in their arsenal or in their rotation to have a traditional urethane back there. So yes, purple hammers had their time, and if you have them, blessings. But I would, if I were other brands, I would not try to recreate that motion.
So immediate takeover by Motive with the micro polymer stuff they got, like the Tank Blitz. 'Cause I mean, that looks pretty similar.
It does. It really does. And once again, if you don't have a measuring stick, you need to find somebody who becomes the measuring stick. So watching the motion of those, seeing a handful of those go down the lane, they do Purple Hammer-esque things. And yes, like, not a lot of people give Motive stuff the credit that they deserve, but they do put some good stuff out of there in Wisconsin.
Like some sneaky good stuff.
Yeah, and unless you've seen them go down the lane or you throw them yourself, they're kind of dark horses in the game because they don't have those pros outside of EJ who are up there in the ranks tearing it up.
Yeah.
But if you know ball motion, you know how to read ball motion and see what's good and what is not. Motive does have some pretty solid stuff on the market, and that Tank Blitz is not bad at all. Not bad at all. It has a possibility of becoming that new measuring stick along with potentially this pitch purple. Both of them could be in a competition to be that next reactive urethane ball.
Well, for sure. Now, I'm moving on from urethane. Just ball companies in general, how do you take after this collaboration? Because I saw a lot of like made in USA, but
it did become a movement. It did become a movement.
Almost trending.
It felt as if, especially since, you have your made in Mexico labels and such, like your homegrown companies do sell more because it's what people like. People like domestic products.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things outside of bowling are not domestic. So in bowling, they want it to be domestic. Given, if you take certain brands' technologies into play, they did come from, overseas releases, but details.
Yeah.
But yes, I feel as if that is a movement that is going to be picked up on majorly because you moved an American-made company to having balls come out of Mexico and other foreign places. People aren't going to take too kindly to that, and other brands are seeing that and they're capitalizing on it. Global changed their banner. Of course, Motive has been that way for the longest. Yeah, been that way for the longest. Storm doesn't have to say anything because they're Storm, but Brigham City, San Antonio for Global, same way. But I feel like it's a wave. It's definitely a wave, and it's going to be a thing in which brands can draw more regular consumers their way, where, of course, you had all four of those companies based off their namesakes running things in everybody's pro shop, unless you're a strictly exclusive pro shop, is going to have some sort of Ebonite International ball in it, or multiple, because of how historical those brands are. But nowadays, this does create a shift in that, and it will make it so more shops do go to exclusively Motive or exclusively Storm with a hint of Global or things to that effect. It is possible that the market changes in that aspect, but you can't completely rule it out because, once again, with Brunswick being on a resurgence, if they're taking their new tech with Ebonite's tech that was still pretty solid, well, Ebonite International's technology, they could still be making good balls, and you're going to have the loyalty people who, although it is Brunswick owned now, if Ebonite's been striking since the dawn of their bowling career, same with Columbia and Hammer, those balls are still going to be in their bags. It doesn't matter who's making them. As long as the ball's rolled somewhat similar, they're going to keep punching them because it's a loyalty aspect.
Quick one final question. So last time we had a company move out of a big lot of the manufacturing place, like Brunswick.
Yeah.
We had Motive pop in there and become a company. Do you think someone takes the Hobsonville plant and decides they can try to do it?
The only company, that I feel like could do something of the sorts would be a Motive. But it also is dependent on demand. There's no need for you to establish an entirely new plant if you don't have the demand to do that, because then you're putting money into a situation that it's a waste of money. You're funneling money into something that's not getting you money out. So Motive would be my only front runner for that, because if they wanted to move out of Wisconsin and still be domestic and still keep all that thing, they could go in there and revitalize that area's economy, because a lot of people lost their jobs with that happening. So that is very possible. But I think with this one, I feel like everybody's just going to stay where they are. I honestly feel like they are. But stranger things have happened. Honestly, just like you said, stranger things have happened.
This came out of the blue.
This was not what I thought was going to happen at all. And it caught everyone, including staffers alike, off guard completely. It's a bad time, but hey, it's a business. Everything is a business. Bowling's a business. And people got to do what they got to do. So no harm, no foul. In certain situations, some people did suffer, and that's really tragic of it. But it's a business, and they're going to do what they're going to do. So we'll see. Just like a lot of these things, it's a lot of we'll see with this free agency, with the movements, with the dissolving of the brands, college bowling, everything like this move shook up bowling.
Just core.
In a crazy way. A way that I didn't expect to happen, and it leaves a lot of room for this to go that way or the other way. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But that is all for this episode of Re-Rack. Once again, I am Nathan Brantley. This is Cory Clausing. Tune in next time. Might be Cory again. We have our other host, Hunter, who may be coming on to the next show. Could be a blend of them both. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed what you were hearing. Go ahead and click the subscribe button to the Bowling Fix, and we'll see you next time.